Hey guys, welcome back. This is Faisal Khan from VoiceBootcamp. In this lab, I'm going to show you how to create and configure instance on all the UCCE servers that we have. So right now what we have is a logger, a server that is going to be the router and a logger for both side A and side B. We have PGA, PGB, and then we have admin server. On each one of these servers you have the UCCE software installed, and therefore you will get to see on their desktop most likely the UCCE component. However, before you can configure anything, we must first configure what we call is a domain instance. So I'm going to start with the logger A, where we're going to install the router and a logger. So what you're going to do on the desktop tools, you have called Unified CCE Tools. You want to click on that and then select Domain Manager. Domain Manager is like a kind of a mini Active Directory tool. Now if I quickly go to the Active Directory server, so right now I am on the Active Directory server, and if I go to Active Directory users and computers, so this is the structure of my domain, just like any Active Directory servers that you have. You got the users, containers, you got the built-in computers, domain controllers, and so and so. So what we're going to do is going back to the ICM's logger server A. So this is the logger where we're going to create a router and a logger, and we're going to select the domain we want to create the container. So the domain is corp.voicebootcamp.com. Now you can click on select. If you have trusted relationship with another domain, for example, you can choose a trusted one and then choose it from the list. But in this lab we'll just have one particular domain, corp.voicebootcamp.com, and therefore we're going to select that one. Under this domain we're going to create Cisco root. So add, select that domain and click OK. And that is the Cisco root you can create. You notice how you cannot add again, only remove. Now if I go back to my Active Directory right here, if I refresh, and you will see the ICM root folder right there. So any configuration related to ICM, user accounts and management, most likely they will be stored under this particular container. Now with this container contains two let's say security group, ICM configuration and ICM setup. So if I create a user account, so let's say go to user account, I'm going to create a user account for myself. User account will be fcon. I'm going to define a password. Okay, I'm going to create another one. John Smith. Okay. Now under the ICM, I can decide to give Faisal and John with a different privilege with a different group. So I'll go back to the logger. So let's say Faisal will have full access to config and setup. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the config, go to security member, I'm going to add Faisal Khan right there. So Faisal will have access to both secure config, so that he can manage the system and configure the system as well. Now John on the other hand can only do config but not setup, so that means he cannot use the web setup right here. Okay, so John will not be part of the web setup. Click OK. Alright, so the next step is to create facility. So we're going to call this, let's say, North America facility. We can create a facility. Let's call this GCC in Middle East. So however you want to create, you can go facility by region for department, or West Coast versus East Coast, so on. So I can create one facility called East Coast, and so on. So let's create an under East Coast. We're going to create an instance called VoiceBootcamp. It cannot be full name because there's a restriction of 5-digit. So VoiceBootcamp 01 maybe. Or you can just simply say VoiceBootcamp. And under each separate instance, I can define different members facility. For example, under East Coast, I can say that this can only be managed by Faisal Khan. It can also managed by John Smith. I can choose setup. Same thing. Only Faisal Khan can do setup, but not John Smith. So Faisal Khan can manage and configure all the instances under East Coast, but and so is John. But only Faisal Khan can do the setup. So these are like a kind of a giving you different privileges, what you can do. So if you assign privileges on the East Coast facility level, every instance below the East Coast should inherit those settings. Alright, so if you click on that, and now we're done with the domain part. The next step is to create a web setup to make this particular server part of that instance. So I'll go to the web setup. Okay, so I'm going to add an instance. Seems like it was there for before. I'm going to remove this and add it again. Alright, so I'm going to add an instance. Select. Actually, it should pick up all other instances as well. So I'm going to go and log out and log back in. Okay, I'm just going to log back in. I'm going to add an instance. We're going to select either East Coast or GCC because those are the one that has an instance configured. If you notice that if I go and open my domain manager again, only East Coast and GCC has an instance, but North America doesn't have any instance, and therefore it is not showing up right here on the page. So I'm going to select East Coast, VCV, and the instance number. Okay, so now the site A is done, so I'll log into site B. Okay, so we're going to log in. add instance, same instance we're going to add is Coast, PCB, and save. They should have the same instance number. Okay, so we're done with the Progr B. We go to PG. This is the PG server. Oh, I hate that error message. Let me disable this. Same procedure. So all I'm doing on each server, just adding the instance, because once the instance is created, the next step is to create, the role of the server, whether this is going to be Rogger or Logger or a router or a PG or whatnot. But for now, we're just setting up the foundation for the instance for each ICM component. You don't have to do this configuration for the CVP server or any server that is not an ICM or UCCE component. Okay, let me disable that feature. Alright, one more server, and that is the admin server. This is a server that we're going to install the administration and HDS database, AWDB and HDS. Alright, so my admin server for some reason not working, so I'm going to have to take a look at that. So we're going to use one of the PG server as our new admin server. So to recap what we've done, for Rogger A, we have configured the instance. Rogger B, we have also configured the instance. PG A and then PGB. So all the servers has a necessary instance that are needed, and then now we're ready to start configuring the role of the server. Alright, so that will finish this particular lab.